Well, good morning, young men of the world. Sam Gray here, samgray.ca, coaching young men with mental health. Just doing a little morning run here, and today we're going to talk about the ego as it relates to emotional processing capacity. Emotional processing capacity. So first things first, as a young man, you're developing your ego, which is maybe you could call it your mask, the mask you wear into the world. You could call it your unique special identity for the business world. You could call it the unstoppable, the hard to stop force that keeps you isolated and safe. Anyway, as a young man, your ego is very strong. It's easy to become identified with it, and this can be dangerous. And it can be dangerous to insofar as it disconnects you from your emotions. When you're connected to your ego, you're not connected to your emotions. And in my experience as a young man, developing into a man, I have started with a very strong ego, and with a very strong ego, you, like I said, you become more connected to that than your emotions. And when you disconnect from your emotions, they build up, kind of like a debt. So your emotional processing capacity is required to increase, but not yet. See, when you're young and strong and full of testosterone, which as a young man you are, you think that you can handle anything, and you believe that because for the first time in your life you can. I mean, relatively. Like the day I beat my dad in an arm wrestle, I mean, what couldn't I do after doing that? Absolutely nothing. The world's my oyster. And sometimes this acceleration can be so quick, it disconnects you from your emotions to a dangerous point. So what I'm getting at here is, as a young man, you need to be careful of your ego getting too big and developing so much faster than your ability to process emotion, such that when your emotions finally catch up with you, you don't get absolutely destroyed by them, absolutely taken out, absolutely identified, absolutely overcome, like beaten, attacked. You become more and more vulnerable to your emotions as your ego increases. So I'm about solutions. You noticed in our last video, we don't tolerate failure in our lives. So what can you do about this as a young man? Knowing that your ego has a tendency to overestimate your capacity to handle emotions. I'm going to say that again. What can you do as a young man knowing that your ego has a tendency to overestimate your future capacity to deal with emotions? So the very first thing is just being aware of this. Having this conversation is very valuable. I wish I had had this conversation with someone, at least in this way. You know, as a young man, you want to show the world how much better you are than it is or was. You want to improve upon things, and when you do that, like you run a lot of risks. You take on a lot of risks. I mean, what if you're wrong, right? So what I'm saying, and again, having this conversation is like, you're probably going to be wrong, and you're probably going to overestimate it. And I'm not going to stop you from experimenting as a young man. That's a part of growing up. But what I'm going to tell you is like a still quite young man, but definitely much more developed and closer to a man than I was, say, at 18. Like, close enough to have a peer relationship to you young men, close enough to remember what it's like, close enough to be a young man myself in some ways. Just lay off a bit and slow down a bit. And when you're having that voice that thinks you might be going into, let's call it dangerous territory, or that voice that is always there 100% of the time whenever you do take on too many emotions and you're like, maybe I'll be able to do it. Just notice that that's there, but the biggest thing you can do is share it. You can share it. Relationships, like right there. The triangle of balance. One thing I took away from high school: work, health, relationships. Get those 3 balls rolling at a speed greater than 0 consistently, everything's going to be fine. But the base of that triangle, it really should be upside down. And it is if my arm's hanging by my side. The base of that triangle is relationships. Your relationships ground you as a man. And they're the way to civility, the way to equanimity, and ultimately the way to handling your emotions in a healthy way. And ultimately a way to managing your ego. Because ego kills relationship. I mean, like, take any time you've taken playing a game with a friend too seriously, Monopoly, any time. Like, it doesn't ruin your relationship forever, but it definitely doesn't feel good, when you're being overly competitive, overly ego identified. You're thinking you're better than everyone else. Can't have good relationships. So ego kills relationships. So by committing to relationships first, you let go of your ego. It kind of, one takes care of the other. One domino knocks down the other, and it knocks down a lot of other dominoes too, right? It knocks down, like, you being healthy. Being in relationships knocks down you being healthy. Why does it do that? I mean, if you've got if the men around you have any type of sense, they're gonna get on your ass if you don't get enough sleep one night and come into work the next day exhausted. They're going to get on your ass if you haven't been working out for a couple weeks. You're starting to get a little slow, a little pudgy, a little whatever, a little poofy on the face, whatever it is. Your men are going to get your back. It's an upside down triangle. Relationships are the bottom, and they take care of health on the right side. Work on the other side. Work is an awesome place for you to process your emotions as well. Like, work it can be. I mean, any job. Sure, some jobs more than other, but it can be a place. It's absolutely a healthy place for a man to process his emotions, to put his emotions, to direct his emotional energy towards. I mean, especially physical jobs. That's why I really recommend physical jobs as a young man. I really, really, really do, because when you have like a labor job, construction job, a trade, I mean, the ideal, a trade would be the recommendation. And the reason for that is because when you're moving your body all day as a young man, you're in motion. And the ego thrives in isolation, which is best created without emotion and also alone. But without emotion, energy in motion, moving all day, you're moving with the emotion. Men process emotion like by moving. Look at me. This is what I'm doing this morning. So, and I know there's a lot of depth here, but there's a lot to talk about. Like, another point too is if you don't do it this way, if you don't do it in this kind of healthy way, like intentional way, or relationships first, which take care of your health and work, you're putting your emotions into those places. That's when they will go into healthy places, like automatically by default, because they're not being directed towards a positive place. So you can have trust that by prioritizing relationships, number one in your life, is the base of the upside down pyramid, and two, taking responsibility for emotions, work and health following after that. You can trust that by having that focus and having it be very intentional, that that your emotions aren't going to get into unhealthy places, like, you know, addictive type behaviors, like drugs, like not sleeping enough, things like this. You can trust that one domino will knock down the others and take out the unhealthy options. I mean, you don't have the capacity, you don't have the time, you don't have the energy. You choose to direct your energy into these 3 places, for example. Really, this one place. It's that simple. It's the one thing: relationships. If you focus most or even half of your energy on that, it's enough to build enough momentum to almost distract you. Really, ultimately, limit your capacity to put it elsewhere. And yeah, and ultimately that's a learning I had in the past month, thanks to a goal setting team I'm on, who suggested this to me. So I'm really happy to share this with you young men. Focus on the triangle. Focus on the bottom of the triangle there, relationships, and the other 2, work and health, will take care of themselves. But ultimately, all the ego motivated unhealthy ways of processing emotion will fade away. And yeah, with healthy relationships, your capacity to process emotion healthily, at least, it really can be unlimited with proper utilization of them. So yeah, Sam Gray's the name. Young Men's Mental Health's the game. And what else is there to say? Yeah, check out the site, samgray.ca. If you're a young man, you got a young man in your life looking to get some support, some coaching, I am available. Send me a message through my website there. We can book a free 30-minute discovery call. And if you like these kind of videos, if you want to see more of my content, I've got books out. I've got some awesome books out. I'll give you the Amazon link below as well. The PDFs are on my website as well. And we've got a really awesome affirmations tape out. Just one right now. More are coming. But that's a daily affirmations tape on the site. You can plug into every day, and it's perfect for the morning to really ground yourself into the unlimited power capacity of nature. So yeah, that's all for now, my friends. Peace and love, and let's go process our emotions healthily in relationship. Done.